What's your recording process like these days?
Oh man, so I can feel like, like when they say put in your 10,000 hours, like I can feel it now because when I go in and I record, it just comes natural. For me, I have a process where I record a lot of my demos at home, and then so when I go to the studio, it's just easy for me. And I do that like rinse and repeat for all of my records.
At this point, you like recording during the day or at night?
I get my biggest vibes at night. They call it Da Vinci time. Like that's where I get my like greatest creative juices flowing. But during the day, I get ideas. I get ideas constantly, really. But like at night, it's like my peak.
Are you a loner in the recording studio?
I love recording by myself, but it just really depends on the vibe. Like if I'm working on a party song, I love for people to be around because it just gives me like a whole nother like wave of energy. But for the most part, I do like recording and by myself in the studio.
How'd you learn that skill?
Just I just adapted over time. Really, to be honest, I got my first indie deal when I was like about 18, 19 years old, and I was working with a producer in my local area. His name was Blaze Hunter, and he would pretty much just let me have his studio. So when I'm at his studio, I'm recording myself all the time. I'm the only one there recording myself. So I got so used to recording by myself for so long. It was just for me, it's like I don't need to get high to record. I don't need like any type of influence but just life. I get high off life. So it just became a part of me after that, like recording for so long.
But recording yourself, was it trial and error? Was it YouTube teaching you how to do certain things? Was it
Well,
someone showing you and actually teaching you the machinery, the technology, for lack of a better phrase?
well, in the beginning, it was more of me observing what was going on in the room, like just watching people. Like I said, like my boy Blaze, he was an engineer, just watching what he was doing, and a lot of it was just me, just trial and error, just figuring it out. But as I, you know, did it a lot longer, like time passed, I started to research and study a lot more. With YouTube, it's like everything is so accessible right now, so YouTube, of course, I learned a lot of new tricks and stuff. But in the beginning, it was really just me, just learning, just watching people, looking over people's shoulder.
Didn't go to school for it?
I actually did go to school, but to be honest with you, I really feel like I didn't really learn as much as I was looking. I mean, I did leave early, but it's like I feel like I didn't come. What I came with is what I left with, for real, for real. I really learned off campus. Like the people I worked with off campus was more of what was more of a learning experience for me.
And what school is this that you're referencing?
Full Sail University.
And how far did you get with that?
So I was there for a good year and a half, and I met a lot of cool people while I was there, and I was able to collaborate with a lot of cool people while I was there. But unfortunately, I didn't finish.
How much longer did you have to go?
I had like I believe about now I failed a few classes. It's not funny, but I failed a few classes. So I did have like some catching up to do. But I truly believe if I would have stayed, I would have finished. But I probably had like a good 6 months, maybe like 8 months or something like that.
So if there was a pie chart of 100% and 100% you graduating, you completing um, degree or certification, whatever they call that for that school,
Hmm.
uh, how much of that did you complete out of 100%?
I'll say a good 50 to 45%.
And what was the reason for dropping out, for lack of a better phrase?
Okay, so basically, I while I was going to that school, I was there on like a grant, and like I believe like my dad, he pretty much like, I don't know if it was the fact that he began to make more money, so it's kind of like, and then and then I failed the classes as well, and I had to retake them, so I had to pay out of pocket for certain stuff. So it's like the finances really caught up to me. So it got to a point where I started doing better in school, but it's like I would show up and then like you gotta leave because you have to pay on this, pay on that, and I literally just didn't have the cash.
And even though your father may have been making some more money at that time in your life, that wasn't an avenue, an option.
Nah, because it was a lot of other stuff going on, but outside of that, like that still was like speculation of probably why I didn't get the grant. Um, After that, but nah, he couldn't. We wasn't in position still to do that.
And why was it speculation? Why was it never? Why was it never confirmed?
Um, I really, to be honest, I don't even know. I think more of it was just the fact that I looked at it like, okay, I just don't have enough to finish. And although I was doing better in school, I still like would show up, but I would constantly get like, you gotta go or you gotta get a Sally Mae, and I was like, nah, I'm not getting a Sally Mae loan. So it's like I guess I just, and then I got an opportunity too to sign to like a small local indie label, but the label had like it was very promising in my area, so like I was like, okay, let me jump on that, do that, and see what happened.
And what was the name of that imprint?
It was called Eracism Records. Yeah.
And what happened with that scenario?
Oh man, it was crazy. We had a lot of dope artists. We had a lot of dope artists. We had the finances. We had the studio. That's why I was able to be at the studio 24/7 and just hone my craft and get better as a producer, better as a songwriter, better as an engineer. But unfortunately, it's just lack of knowledge, really, just lack of knowledge of the business, music business changing. Around that time, it was like a lot of people were popping off like the college tours and not so much like radio. And some of my management were more focused on doing like radio campaigns and stuff like that, when we should have been doing like more like college radio and college tours and stuff like that. So it just didn't work out after a while. Money started going low, um, and a few other things, and it just didn't work out.
Pausing here to go to another set of questions. What was your parents' reaction? You may have mentioned it, but refresh for the viewers. What was your parents' reaction when that decision of dropping out came to be?
Well, my parents, they've always been like super supportive
You
of,
did mention, sorry to cut you off,
yeah.
but you did mention something to the fact of keep going or get Sally Mae. I didn't know if that was your parents' reaction
Oh, no,
or
no, no, no.
okay.
So basically, I went I went through like the offices at the school to try to like talk to a few advisors to see what I could do to stay in school, because I really had to start progressing and doing better, and I feel like I was gonna finish, because when you first start like any type of schooling in college, at first your first few semesters you gonna mess up, and that's what I did. I screwed up going to the club, partying, doing stuff like that. But then finally, when I started studying and doing what I was doing, everything started coming together. But the finances caught up to me, retaking classes. But like my parents, well, the financial advisor had advised me, say, hey, take a Sally Mae. I was like, no, that's not happening, because I just had heard so many stories about people who took Sally Mae. So I was like, nah, I'm not doing that. So the opportunity during the summer, so we was going into the summer, and I was going on a summer break. Went on a summer break. That's when I started working more with the local indie label, and I was just more in the studio. But my parents, they always been just super, super, super supportive of whatever decision I make. It's more of like, hey, they'll advise me, say, hey, this is the decision you're choosing. You got to be mindful of the consequences and what, comes with it. But they always been super supportive. So when they found out that I was just going to go the route of going with an indie label and, playing my chances to make it in this music, they were with it. Really, they were with it. They was in support of what I wanted to do.
And just for clarification, this is something you let them know or they find out on their own, the decision making there?
No, I let my parents know. I let my parents know. Yeah.
Now, in retrospect, was dropping out the right decision looking back? Or A, do you wish you would have finished? B, do you wish you would have skipped college altogether and went straight to music? Or C, happy with some sort of college experience under your belt?
I absolutely felt like I should have skipped college and went to like straight to an internship because I learned so much more being actually in the studio versus being in school. Now, to be honest with you, a lot of like my friends that I met in school, and a lot of experiences that I went through in school, you can't like redo those things. So I would think about that, but like outside of all of that other stuff, mainly for me it would just be um, going and doing an internship. That's what I would do if I could do it all over again. I would just go and do an internship.
Did you choose the wrong school, perhaps?
I don't really think so. I really don't think it matters when it comes to music, because really, with music is either you have it or you don't, and it's about who you know. So, and just being in the right position. So I feel like if I would have focused more on like, okay, let me go and do an internship or something like that, I think that would have been a great look.
And for clarification, was Full Sail, is that considered a college or is that considered a trade school?
At the time, it was accredited college, but in between the time, it ended up losing its credibility for some reasons that I didn't have not researched. But um, for some reason, at some point, they did lose their credibility. I'm not sure if they did get it back to be like a real legit like university, but we did take our main courses like physics, math, science. So you had to get all of that stuff out of the way before you got involved with anything concerning music.
So for clarification, when you dropped out, were you considered a freshman, a sophomore, a junior?
Um, well, it's the program is like it's fast paced,
Accelerated?
so it's accelerated. So it's like, technically, I would probably be like a sophomore because like the credits and the amount of credits that I had or whatever. But yes, because I would have graduated within like 6 months after that.
Now, if you feel like you've answered these next set of questions already, then you can skip it or add on to what you've already said. And if not, feel free to provide an answer. But what did this entire experience teach you? What did you learn from all of this? And that's dropping out.
Um, I mean, the main thing for me I learned is just, when it comes to school, just like understanding like the perspective, like as far as my parents, like you asked earlier, like your parents tell you pretty much like how to prepare for school, and being a creative kid, a lot of times you don't school is boring, obviously, you know what I mean. So, but just like certain habits, it's like I was the type of kid that I'll walk into school into class, don't study and just pass the test. That's how I was. So you can't do that in college. You can't just so I feel like with that whole experience, I learned a lot. Just preparation. It did teach me preparation, being more prepared for certain things.
What do you wish you knew before you dropped out, if anything?
Um. Oh, I wish I would have known that the indie label wasn't gonna work out, because I would have went another route. I would have just took an internship or something.
Do you consider yourself a college dropout?
Yeah, but I don't really hang it over my head though, cause I look at it like you got different pathways to success. College is a pathway, but it's not a pathway for everybody.
And what do you want people watching this interview to know about college dropouts, other
That
than what you've already said?
Well, I would want them to know that it doesn't define you. It doesn't define who you are. It doesn't define your future. It doesn't define your success. Whatever you want, you can have it. So if you believe that school isn't for you, it isn't for you.
How does one know if it's for them or not?
I believe in life, you really just gotta follow your gut. You gotta follow your gut and your instinct and trust it. Trust it and just follow it all the way through.
Now, circumstances could be different for everyone, but generally speaking, let's say somebody's watching this interview and they just dropped out of college themselves. Anything you would say to them?
I would tell them, to definitely just at this point, you made a huge decision to drop out of school. I would say, take every week and apply it to your life as if it's a year, so that you can accomplish so much more. Because you're gonna have a lot of doubters. You're gonna have a lot of people that's gonna be like, you dropped out of school, so it's gonna be hard for you to make it, but you can make it. You just have to apply yourself on a whole nother level.
Do you feel like you've made it?
I feel like I have. I feel like every milestone I set for myself, I hit it. So it's just a moment. It's just a matter of time.
Anything else you want to mention about dropping out of college, or question I didn't ask, people want to know about that experience?
No, I haven't. I have no more for that.
Have you mentioned this in your music at all? The dropout scenario?
Oh, nah. I never did. I do want to shine some light on it eventually down the line. Maybe do something similar to Kanye drop out.
Since you dropped out, what's your opinion on education now in the American society?
I feel like it needs to change. It needs to go more towards the future. I feel like a kids should have a priority early. They should already know exactly what they want to focus on. As far as, of course, one day they may say I want to be an astronaut. The other day it may like I want to be a surgeon. But whatever is their passion or their passions, if it's multiple, take at least two of them and grow it. I feel like artistic kids, as far as talent with art and music, I feel like they should focus on that early. You know, teach them their basic maths or whatever, and just let them focus on what they're good at. Like let all the kids focus on, like if they're into technology and computer coding, let them focus on that early and elementary and grade school. Let them choose a major then. And if they get ready to, get to a point where they want to change their major down the line, let them do it. But I feel like it's just not centered based, focused on what the kid's strengths are. It's more like I'm giving you this grading scale and you got an F. You're stupid. Instead of telling them, hey, no, you could be the next Elon Musk. Your brain just more focused on building, computer coding, creating, you know.
Anything else on the subject of education while we're at it?
Nah.
When kids grow up, sometimes they have aspirations of what they want to be or what they want to do when they get older. Sometimes it works out, sometimes it doesn't. Did you have one?
Um, I had a few different things I wanted to do when I grow up, but well, the main thing for me is I started out as an athlete first. Music was just like second nature because I grew up in church. So, like my grandmother was the choir director. My dad was a pastor. So music was always around me. My cousins played different instruments and stuff like that. So I always knew that music would be a part of my life. But early on, it was basketball, football. Like my parents always got me involved in those type of activities. So eventually, of course, being a kid and being a fan of sports, I wanted to do that. But as I got older and my love for music grew, I just decided to go a different route.
So you wanted to be an NFL or NBA basketball player?
Yeah, actually, yeah, I did.
That was the number one goal?
Yeah, it was. It was at one point. And then I started to learn fast when I got to high school that, the competition got a lot higher. So I understood where my heart really was.
At this point, are you considered a full-time recording artist or producer?
Right now, I'm not. Well, I look at it like I'm full time because yeah, even though I have a job on the side and I do other things, yeah, because I always make time for it. Like I said, I already put in my 10,000 hours, but now it's just perfection and moves and just creating a vision further.
Did you foresee this at all for you, the music career path?
Actually, I did. That was the struggle between me being an athlete because like my dad, he put so much into me becoming an athlete, even to the point where he got me a trainer and everything. But for me, it was more like I remember sitting on my bed and just like listening to music and watching MTV music videos. Like when I was like a little small kid, 3 years old, I used to just stay in front of the TV and watch music videos. So I knew like I wanted to do it. I just didn't know how. Like I didn't know how like it would work if I became an athlete. Would I be like an athlete slash rapper, like athlete slash singer? But when I got to high school, it was more of like, no, I love music. And I remember being in the car with my mom and my mom being like, after basketball practice, she was like, okay, like, you don't want to do this no more? I'm like, nah, I want to do music. And at that point, she knew it was real because, music was everything to me at that point, and that was all I would do every day was music.
Care to share the type of job you do outside of music?
Actually, I would. I'm not gonna say the company, but I'm like a tech slash customer service guy. But I like to tell people that because in the music business, people a lot of people don't want to let people know that hey, like I got a grind on the side. Like Zaytoven, he was cutting hair, he was doing all these multiple things to make sure that his vision came to life. So for me, it's like okay, life doesn't stop. You gotta make sure you take care of home. You gotta make sure that you're able to put up if you're an independent artist, you can put up the bread for your marketing campaigns and your rollouts and stuff like that. So don't be ashamed to have a job. I know a lot of people online, they like to flex and say, hey, I got it already. But understand that it will come. If you grind hard, it'll come. You having a job doesn't change anything. And it doesn't cut the workload down either. Like I work on my music 24/7, and make time to get things done and hit goals. So
You mentioned some family members on the church side of things, like grandmother, cousins, father. Uh, were grandmother and cousins on your father's side as well?
yeah, like I have music on both sides of my family.
Well, not music, but just the people that you referenced that were in church.
Oh yeah, yeah.
You mentioned grandmother, you said your father was a pastor, and then you said you had cousins that were also,
Musicians, yeah.
yes. Uh, were all these members on your father's side of the family, or were any of them on your mother's side that you were referencing?
I was referencing both. Both sides of my family are spiritual. I have a lot of pastors, missionaries, bishops, apostles
Do you
in my
follow
family.
religion by any chance?
Um, I believe in God. I'm not a religious person to like certain standards, but I believe in God. I follow the laws. I follow God. So I definitely believe in it.
Because you were raised that way?
Not well. I was introduced to it as a young kid, but just my experiences growing up and even me growing older and seeing life for myself, that God is real and, it's no one bigger than him. So,
When it comes to a religion, you mentioned your father was a pastor of a church. Was it a particular religion at that time?
yeah, Christian.
And did it get any more detailed than that under Christianity, or was it just Christianity?
It was just Christianity. I mean, he was also a part of Baptist, but eventually it changed into like him being a Christian because he was like a deacon of a Baptist church, and then eventually he changed over to just Christianity.
Now, because that was how you were raised, your father going from Baptist under Christianity to just Christianity, and the fact that you aren't, as you described, religious to a certain degree or standard, did that cause a rift between you two by any chance?
Well, it never caused a rift directly between me and my father. It was more of like, just getting older and looking around yourself and understanding that these people in the church isn't perfect. They're the same as the person that outside your door. When I understand that and understanding that, sometimes when I say like religious standards, I mean like when it comes to traditions, when it comes to like man-made traditions, not God-made traditions, that's what I mean. But just like growing up in church and seeing certain things, and then me coming to that moment that like, wow, people in church aren't perfect. They just like my homeboy that sell dope on the corner. Really, it's just that we all need God, pretty much.
Do you have an example for viewers that may be confused on a man-made version versus a God version?
Basically, what I mean by that is just like sometimes we make up traditions, certain traditions, and we hold them as like law, but God never said that. And I feel like a lot of times we get caught up in that, caught up in ourselves instead of what God wants for us.
Do you have a specific example of that?
I wouldn't have a specific example. It's just in general, like if you was to go to a church and they say you can't wear pants or something like that. Like I feel like that's a man-made thing. I mean, and then like I say, that's my opinion, but I feel like that's a man-made thing. But outside of that, I just feel like more of just following God's word and what He's saying versus what we think it is.
And the perspective of that question about the rift is because sometimes family members do get into a rift when there are different viewpoints on religion.
Oh, that's absolutely real. But I always try to stay in the position of I know that I'm not perfect and I don't have all the answers. So I always stay in the position of just like understanding and respect. Like I respect first. Like I respect anybody who have different points and views of, on religion and stuff. I just respect them as a person first and listen what they got to say. More so than just like me trying to prove that I'm right.
And for time reference, it's February 2022 now.